It didn't say chewing gum anywhere.
I'll take some condoms.
So we had like a lot of 16-year-old guys just like running. Like I've never seen 16-year-old guys run that fast, running towards the True Gum bike.
really
Like,
weird.
is this free gum? What is this? Condoms or?
Condoms? Are they biodegradable?
Yeah.
Give me a crate.
Yeah, so you could really see some, disappointed 16-year-old guys' faces there when they were like,
It's just gum, guys.
sorry, this is like a sustainable chewing gum. They were like, oh.
Very strange that I have a large nose, and I'll tell you why.
I guess you're privileged to have a big nose then, because you don't live in harsh conditions.
The habanero one? Holy fuck, dude. Woo! Maybe I've been treating this bike as some sort of parkour bike when really it's just
I once came face to face with a wild rhinoceros. That was pretty crazy.
I got stung by a bee once.
Well, welcome back to the Burning Boat Show. Thanks for being here, guys. We've managed to trick some of the people we're currently working with into having a podcast episode done with us at the moment.
Yeah.
The guys
idiots.
from True Gum just stopped by to review one of the videos we're making for them, and we asked them if they would kindly stay and talk to us on the podcast. This is actually the first time we're doing a podcast in the new studio, but for you guys listening, you will have probably seen an episode before then where we actually show you around. But real quick, before we get into the episode, I just wanted to thank our sponsors on Patreon. If you want to help make this show possible, you can head over to Patreon. The link is down below. And thank you to everyone who already sponsors us.
Thank you.
But I think we wanted to start off just by getting like basically a quick introduction from either of you.
Or both of you.
From both of you. Something like a 60-second life story.
Wow. Okay.
If you can do that.
I didn't know it was going to be this.
Yeah,
this
we're getting real
intense.
deep.
You're going to count us in
Yeah.
and count us out?
Peter, if you don't mind starting, just quickly giving a 60-second account of who you are.
Wow, I should have, taken some time to prepare for this one. But
Off the cuff.
And action.
And action. Well, regular kid chewing a lot of gum, having a happy life. Actually going through normal, I think, Danish youth, playing a lot of soccer and basketball and whatever. And then actually at the age of 19, starting my first company, which was a music streaming company.
Oh.
So that's, some years ago now, but that was a lot of fun. And then going through business school in Copenhagen, and then venturing into this, life of chewing gum production, which I think, couldn't have foreseen. But now I'm here.
Predict younger.
Sticky situation.
That's what we should call the episode.
Yeah.
But I guess that's a very brief version.
That's
of
around
me.
60 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you?
Yeah. Well, like Peter,
Pressure's on.
grew up normal life as a kid in Jutland, and started studying acting, actually. So I'm educated an actor. Before I studied some commercial stuff in business, and then I met Peter accidentally almost, and sticked to Peter
Ooh, nice.
and his gum.
That's good.
So
Let's see how many we
maybe
get.
I'm in it for the creative marketing of True Gum, and
Nice.
pretty much it.
So for those of the people who don't know, you own True Gum.
Yeah.
Which
co-own.
Partially. Yeah.
Partly. Well, you started it.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Which is a chewing gum, which we actually have here. Mm-hmm. A chewing gum that is, I think the main thing I understand is that it doesn't have a plastic core.
Yes,
That
exactly.
most chewing gum actually has a plastic core. This one does not, which means it is biodegradable.
Mm-hmm.
It's vegan, and like I said, it's plastic free. So maybe we can just start. When did the company begin? Why did you want to do it? What made you go down this road of doing chewing gum?
Yeah.
Because I remember from both your video you already have, and just from looking on your website, it starts very, very simply with, we were just sitting around one day and we found out that gum is normally made from plastic, and we were like, well, really, does that have to be that way? And we're gonna want to make our own. But I feel like there's got to be a little bit more to that.
Yeah, definitely. There's always more to the story than what you can find on a website. But I think initially it started when Morten, who's not here today, and we were sharing an apartment, and we were actually also colleagues at the old more like 9 to 5 job we were doing, and then we were, as I think a lot of young people do, trying to eat healthy at least 5-6 days of the week, and doing a lot of healthy stuff for ourselves, and also thinking about sustainability and the environment. And then one evening, Morten was subscribing to one of these meal kits that they ship to you directly, and then you get a lot of like organic produce and healthy ingredients. Then we were cooking that dish and eating that, and it was like really transparent. You get this in like this wooden box, and you're producing a meal with beetroots and carrots and a lot of like wholesome ingredients where you can really see what you're consuming. And then after we had the dinner, I was like reaching into my my bag, and then getting a piece of gum, and then slowly handing that to Morten. And then this pack was a chewing gum with like pillow shaped piece of gum with a liquid center inside.
Yeah.
It had like some kind of neon colored stripes on the pack, but also in the chewing gum. And then I think we were slowly starting to chew the gum, and then this pack lying on the table next to our plate, which had like purple beetroot juices on it. It was like suddenly quite a stark contrast between this neon colored liquid bubble gum world and then this organic produce wholesome world. Then this contrast was actually became quite evident, very visually at least. And then we just started discussing, I wonder what chewing gum is actually, what it actually is made of. And it turned into a discussion about why is chewing gum lying on the street, because if we took one of these beetroots or carrots or whatever and put them in soil or in the nature, then they would forgo over time because it's organic material and it's a natural ingredient. But chewing gum, for some reason, which was the discussion point, just stays there on the street, and then it if you're waiting for a bus or waiting for a train.
It's like once you're aware of it, you see it fucking everywhere.
Yeah, you see it everywhere. And
it is
like,
pretty crazy.
And I think in the city of Copenhagen, they did some different research, and they kind of estimated there to be between 17 million and 20 million pieces of gum in Copenhagen alone, which would amass to between 17 and 20 tons of like microplastic aggregated on the Copenhagen streets, which is really quite shocking. So I think that was kind of a discussion that intrigued us a little bit. How do you make it, and from that is kind of where we came into the thing you mentioned, Mads, is like how did you then get your. I think this was just like a little seed that just planted itself in our minds, and then the next days at the office, in like lunch break, we were like googling
maybe
how do you produce chewing gum, just to educate ourselves a little bit. And we were teasing each other a little bit, like, okay, I know it, but you don't, and all this like banter going back and forth. But then we kind of slowly over the next day stumble upon that one of the core ingredients in this regular chewing gum, and it's in all of the regular chewing gums, is this like plastic core. And when you make this synthetic plastic core, you make it with the plastic polymers or plastic ingredients that are the same you use when you produce plastic bottles and like car tires and glue. So it's like the raw plastic component which you also use for those types of products. We were like, wow, okay, this is really surprising, and this is also the key fact behind it being so undegradable that it will be lying on the street. Is this plastic core? And then we were like, okay, isn't someone else doing something that's more clean, both from the kind of consumer perspective, so not chewing on a small plastic bag, but also from an environmental perspective? Could you then potentially, that was the idea at least, produce something that didn't have this negative environmental footprint? And that was kind of the first initial idea that came at that point.
Are you in a position at that moment, are you thinking, I've been wanting to start a company, or what kind of makes you take that step into saying, well, I'm going to try to do something about this?
I think it was actually a little bit, the super boring answer is there was a little bit of both. I think we were both, Morten and I were kind of intrigued by doing something together as well, and something like we'd often been brainstorming some ideas, but nothing we'd ever really done so much about. But then this was kind of, you know, where the pieces of the puzzle sort of, you know, connected for us both, because we were like, we couldn't find anyone who was doing something. So we had this notion that either this can be a really, really cool idea, and we really connected with the purpose about doing something more, you know, sustainable. But on the other hand, we also had this idea that maybe we're just fucking stupid. Yeah. Because someone has, this is, you know,
there's a reason why no one has done it.
There's probably some reason why, because like so obvious, you know, if it's made with, you know, plastic core, then why is no one doing more clean? Because in all different food categories, if it's like, you know, drinks or snacks or whatever, you can also see this transition from Mars bars and Snickers to raw bars, and you know, getting like these kombucha drinks and vitamin water and whatnot. So you also have these different food categories going to more green, natural, sustainable alternatives, but no one was really doing it. And gums were like, this is a real cool opportunity, but it could be, you know, shitty stupid, because someone has definitely tried, but definitely failed hard. Yeah. But I think that was kind of, you know, just what got us going in the beginning. And then I didn't really think in the beginning, we didn't really think it would maybe materialize into anything. It was more like this playful, like, let's just try to do our own. It probably won't turn into a company, but let's try it out, see if we can. So we didn't really think the whole journey ahead of it. It was more like just looking at the next step on the staircase, and someone was just like, let's see if we can try to do a natural product. And that was kind of, you know, kind of the first step we wanted to achieve.
So did you like keep working and then do this on the side?
Yeah. So I think the original idea came in maybe like, this evening was maybe like in October. I think it was actually in November 16. And then in this period, November, December, January, February, March, actually, we just worked on it in the evenings and in the weekends. And then I think actually in March was when we kind of had this epiphany, like, wow, we could actually produce like the licorice gum we have today was the first one. And we're like, this actually tastes nice. And that was kind of our mental cutoff line. We said the day it tastes good is the day we kind of, you know, try to go all in and cut the, you know, mental ties we had to our company. And then we actually quit our jobs in March. Okay. And then we were like, what's the worst that can happen if we don't like punch our bosses in the face, and if we just go to them and present that we have this idea and we can't, you know, look ourselves in the eyes if we don't try it out, then we can always come back if they, you know, are still in a position where they have some stuff to do in that company. And they were like laughing a little bit at us when we were quitting the jobs, like
they'll be back.
That's fucking hilarious. but yeah, they'll be back.
The question that you asked yourself is something that I'm very interested in, is what's the worst that can happen? Because I think a lot of people fail to try the thing that they want to do because they don't even bother to answer that question, because they think that it's such a huge thing that will happen, such a bad consequence if it fails or whatever it might be, that just sitting down and realistically, like, what is the worst that can happen? And like, that doesn't sound so bad. We gave it a try. We can probably realistically just go back to our jobs and it'll be like nothing happened.
I think we boiled it down to saying the worst thing that could happen was that we put and we had some savings. It was not that much, but it was like we put 50,000 in the project over like these 5-6 months or something like that, and maybe we lost that money. And then we had to a little bit, you know, vanity, going back to the boss and saying, we failed.
You lose your ego a little bit.
You lose your ego a little bit, but then you get back. And Morten showed me this really cool picture that we actually went online and printed, and we put it like up in the apartment. It's like it's really cool, and people can Google it. And it's quite easy to find. It's like this. I think it's a donkey or a horse. I can't remember. But it's like it's tied, but it's tied to like a plastic chair that's not tied to anything. And it's just talking about like these mental shackles you are putting on yourself. And so I think there's some quote on that picture that's like you're only put down by the shackles you kind of put on yourself.
Perceived to have.
So it's like, you know, it is. So the donkey, it's shackled to like a plastic chair. So it's like it's really shackled and tied down greatly. But essentially, it's just like a small plastic chair could just go away and, you know, walk away from that. But it can't really think of anything more than that. I think that was kind of, you know, a fun image for us to look at. It was like, you can just do it. It's not that bad, you know. it's actually not so bad. If
Yeah.
if you
So,
just
but
wanna do-
what process do you go through mentally to reach that conclusion? Because obviously most people stop at that and say, well, it is too scary
Yeah.
and it is too much to maybe lose my ego.
Yeah.
Is there something that's going on like internally? Are there things that you're telling yourself, or do you just have a very strong reason why you want to do this in the first place? Do you
Yeah.
feel like there's a specific thing that you can point to that was like, this is why we kind of made the leap?
Yeah, I actually think what was really good was that we actually quite early, like in November 16 or something like that, December, we actually sat down and had a random chat at some point where we were like, what is it? What kind of check mark can we set? What is it? What single thing do we want to achieve? Where we're like, now we feel confident that we want to go full time. So we actually put a very conclusive target. So and for us that target was, when we can produce a chewing gum that we feel has good texture, good flavor, then we kind of feel confident that we can make a company, do the marketing, do the sales. But this was like our defining thing, because if we couldn't do that, then everything else was wasted.
Yeah.
So we kind of set that as, and also I think we probably thought in some way that day might never come. So it's quite easy to set some sort of target, especially if you think you're not going to reach it, then it's very easy to set that target. So we set up that target, and then we actually reached that target in, I think it was like February 27th or something. And then we really were really fucked, because then I think as a human being, you're very like risk averse.
Yeah.
So I think the natural thing for us, especially for Danes, I think, was like to set a new target and be like a bit more like,
Well, let's just be safe
let's
and make
just
sure
be
we can make
safe,
another one
make
as well.
sure we're not overextending ourselves. So actually we wanted to set a new target, like okay, but it should be even better. But then we're like, no, fuck no.
Yeah.
We made this decision 4 months ago
Yeah.
that if we did it and we succeeded in reaching that target, then we would go all in. And then we tried to do so many different things that evening, so many stupid things. We tried to do all sorts of like calculations, like, can we earn enough? Is the market big enough? And it was super stupid, but we really tried to latch on to different like safety levers to really feel like this was a well thought out conclusion. And when we look back now, that was just so stupid. But then I remember I spoke to my brother that evening, and he was like, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
It's like you risk 50,000 and it's like, what's the best that could happen? And then I was just listing 100 things, right? We can do this, we can make this product, we can have fun, we can build our own company. And it's like, what's the worst that could happen? I could only think of one thing, two things, like a little bit of money, a little bit of ego.
Right.
But that was
Right.
like the con list, but the pro list was just so long that the result spoke for itself. And then it was like, next day, handing in the resignation letter to the boss.
So setting the goal that you knew that if you didn't reach it, you know pretty quickly that okay, we're never going to reach it,
exactly.
was something that made you really just, we have to at least let ourselves try to get to that. And that was what kept.
So not
kept
putting some
driving.
sort of like unrealistic goal, but still it was
that's
like, this
interesting.
was the toughest thing for us to achieve, because we came from this like sales and marketing background. So we also obviously underestimated so much stuff back then, but we kind of at least felt that we could do some sales, we could probably do some marketing, but we couldn't develop this chewing gum easily. We knew that was kind of our key problem to solve. So when that was solved, then we're like, okay, now we owe it to ourselves to give it a go.
Were you confident throughout that process, developing this first iteration of the gum, or were there like failures along the way where you're like, fuck, this is
tons of failures, like blowing off some microwaves, and we were so like we didn't really know how to make the gum, so we were like watching YouTube videos for like Good Morning America, where there's like this old lady doing gum for like a children's party, and then zooming in and watching the video 100 times, and we did so much stupid stuff and so many fuck ups. So there were definitely many times we were like, this is never gonna go well. And I remember just a lot of friends and family were like, this is a really silly project.
It does have that chewing gum. It doesn't.
And our old boss, he was like, we had two bosses. One of them, he was like, this is retail, right? The two
Retail,
companies who are dominating chewing gum maybe have a turnover of like 30-40 billion euros annually, right? So you're like going up against the mastodons. So you don't have the marketing power, you don't have the brand, you have nothing.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why it's like 10 companies who are dominating the world food scene.
Yeah.
And it's not 20,000 local companies, it's 10 international conglomerates. So he was very skeptical.
What were you doing before? Where were you working?
It's like a small innovation consulting company.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was a super smart guy, a very nice guy, but understandably he was very skeptical about the nature of the project.
It kind of sounds like, you know, if someone went home and said, "Mom and Dad, I want to be a magician."
Yeah.
It's like, okay, sure.
I hope you know how to do magic. It's like,
gotta
nope.
Google it. I'm gonna YouTube it. I'm gonna look it up.
I'm gonna freestyle it.
That's interesting. Do you have like on the failure question? You said you listen to the Tim Ferriss podcast quite a bit. He likes to ask, which I think is a genius question. Do you have a favorite failure? Something that, having gone through it, you're so happy that you learned it then and maybe not later? Like, is there something that you can look at and say that failure was a massive success actually in the end?
I think there's like one theme actually. I think it's like the same type of failure, but we've incurred it and seen it a few times. It's actually been like because we come with like a new type of chewing gum, then we kind of had the notion, now we're a new company, we have a new type of chewing gum, we can do everything in a new way. And I think we've kind of overextended ourselves quite a few times with like trying to make things too innovative. Which I think you hear most people preaching like, be novel, be innovative, do things differently, stand out from the crowd. And I actually think the times when we've kind of scaled back and been more non-innovative have actually been great successes for us. So an example could be, we had like a very abstract packaging in the beginning. It was like matchbox function, and very like artistic ingredients. So like really trying to rethink how artistic a chewing gum pack can be. And it was just a huge mistake, because people in a supermarket aisle, they see products, they have a few seconds attention spans. You really have to be able to communicate, this is a new product, this is something different, in a very simple way. So I think there's actually quite a few times in our journey where we've scaled back and been less innovative and more just like standard. Taking the logical, very simple, non-innovative choices. And we failed in the beginning because we've been like, fuck, something is wrong here. But then we've kind of scaled it back, and that's actually been quite positive for us. So being not so innovative is not something you hear a lot, but it's actually worked quite well.
That's funny. I think that's kind of a life lesson, because in film it's in many ways the same way, I think, where you want to know the rules and be able to make a good film before you start throwing all the rules out the window. And like all my student films were just like, fuck films, I want to make something totally different. And then they're not even films at the end of the day that nobody can understand or anything. So I think you
need to know the craft before
exactly.
you start doing something.
Exactly.
I had a theater teacher. He told me like, what was it? It was a saying someone said like, craft is like what is it? Talent without craft is like fuel without an engine. It burns wildly, but accomplishes nothing.
That's very good.
Very
spot on.
It's a little cringe, but it's
no, I like that.
You need to know the craft before you can go around.
It's true.
It's and I think that people in general like to try and come up with reasons why what someone else might say, well, are you sure about that? That seems a bit out there. And what you want to come up with reasons for why it's different and why it's good, or maybe you need to come up with more reasons for why it might not work. And you start to try and convince yourself that what you're doing differently is going to be interesting because it's never been done before. Like you said, well, maybe there's a reason why it's never been done before.
It's sort of the thing as well, maybe, where we had kind of talked before, where you guys were saying you want people just to think it's good gum. And then it's great that it's vegan and biodegradable and all these other things. As opposed to something where people go like, oh, it's interesting, it's out there, but it's not really that good of gum.
Exactly.
It's like the total, the wrong approach, I would think.
But I think that's been a learning process for us. Also in the beginning, we wanted to do like a subscription model where we were selling gum online, and we thought to ourselves, you know, we look into the society, and you hear from every single podcast and business advice and whatever, like subscription models, get recurring payments. That's really the way to go. And you watch these different TV shows and whatnot with people like, if you have a subscription model, then the investors or whatever like drooling at this business. What's your monthly recurring revenue? And then they're like, this is just hot stuff. And I think we, you know, you listen to what all these professional and very clever people say, but then you try it out, and then it was, you know, it's too far out for people when it's such a commodity product that you're just like putting into your basket in a supermarket, just to start buying that like on a subscription. So you try some stuff out, and then you learn like it's not always that you have to invent the wheel on each and every single, you know, touch point or parameter in your business.
So you said you reached this first goal, and then you guys set a second goal?
Yeah, I think then we started setting more like small, I think, micro goals. But that was like the goal we almost like wrote down, like if we
do you have another like pillar goal like that at the moment?
I wouldn't say we have one like overarching goal that would like shoot us into the next phase of the company. I think it's more I think now we're much more passionate about like, I think, the larger vision of the company, which really is, you know, to make this, you know, greener, sustainable switch in this, you know, food category, where if you really choose ours, you're, you know, each time you're buying our gum compared to a plastic filled gum, you are actually making maybe a small difference, but each time you're making this small difference, it's accumulating to a bigger, more sustainable difference in that food category. And I think that's what's driving us all. So it's more like big visionary goal now, I would think.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think kind of separates you? Because I've actually seen in Germany specifically, my mom has bought a couple like raw gums and stuff, but they always feel very niche, very like local. I don't know, somebody's grandma around the corner is making it and giving it to the corner shop or something. What do you think kind of separates you guys? Because I've seen you now in Netto, I've seen you in Ilma. You're obviously commercially successful by most people's standards. What do you think kind of helped you get there with a product that is quite niche?
Yeah, I think it's we've quite deliberately from the beginning. In the beginning, we didn't know so much about any other like people producing gum that was more, you know, more natural and sustainable. But then, you know, as further we get into the process, then you do more research, and then you find a few other people. But what we really saw was that it was these like super niche products that, both in terms of packaging, but also in terms of the actual gum, was very far from what people normally expect from a chewing gum. So it's like really weird texture, or it was, you know, the design had this feeling that this was something you would only find in like the corner, top right shelf corner in like a health store.
Like the one I had, I think, was just a bar almost, and you ripped off little pieces to chew and stuff, right? Like strange little things.
And I
like
think
that.
for us, it's like been very deliberate from the beginning that we wanted to make sustainable chewing gum, but that had like mass potential, like for the masses, not for the niches. And I think that's what's probably been very different for us. So in terms of all the different touch points, all the retailers we've been, you know, approaching, we've always been thinking about how can we make it like widely commercially attractive. And that's also, you know, so we have to like get a good production so we can produce a lot, so we can actually sell it for a price where most people can, you know, buy it, but it's also attractive for our like partners who are also earning a margin each time we sell. So I think,
and then somewhat competitive with the other gum out there,
exactly.
right?
And then, you know, just and comparable chewing experience to the regular gum. So that's always been like a clear mission for us.
And then is design a big focus obviously as well?
Yeah, I think it has been. I think it wasn't really so much in the beginning, but like slowly we kind of understood that, especially the first time you buy a product, design and the packaging, and
it's almost like everything with gum, more. It's like
the aesthetics is just, you know, so important when you're becoming attractive to a new consumer. So that's been a big part, and also just being much more engaging on the social media channels and everything has also been a big part, even though it's not a defining part, but it's, you know, an increasingly big part of the company.
Jacob, maybe you can answer this from a marketing perspective. What would you say if you had to pick one thing that was the most important from a marketing perspective to do with how you market True Gum? What would it be?
how we market True Gum.
Like a single element, whether it be the aesthetics or the way that you highlight that it's plastic free, or the way, like what's the main thing?
I think that the major USP is the plastic free thing, and that's how we should go into the market. Of course, like Peter said, aesthetics are really relevant to stand out and to get I also think like we're like on the edge to being also a lifestyle product in some kind of way, and if you want people or the consumer on board, you really need to give them like that they can be a part of something, like a little not a wave that's but anyway, that they can help changing the world.
Yeah.
And of course the major USP is plastic free, but we're also doing it in a cool way.
Yeah.
Like you're part of something, and on the so it's between plastic free and aesthetics all the way.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
I like the get people to feel like they are
They are
supporting the thing.
Supporting, and
the lifestyle element really makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think so. And then there's like, it's so like you've seen the factory and all that, and you don't really just want to be because it is like a product for everyone that you buy every day, like a liter of milk, but you have to get the customer to feel like that they are a part of this, and they know the tone of voice, and I think really we're getting there on the social media now. Like we really have like a tone, and
you do, yeah,
like a palette of great colors, and some two really good graphic designers on board that really helps us being a brand that people know and can
keep returning to.
keep returning
out
to,
of
and
like loyalty almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it is aesthetics and the online language. Yeah.
So you said your background is kind of acting and theater and stuff.
Yeah, it's really
so how did you come into? I'm curious.
That's
a good question.
At what point did you come into the company?
Probably you've been around a year old, I think. You were had just launched the product, but in the old boxes.
Yeah.
And we're kind of struggling a little bit with that. And it's not that I helped with that, but we were. You just got into 7-Eleven, I think, as the first big thing, and then you were out in different smaller restaurants and cafes and stuff, and then we were going to launch in Roskilde Festival, and to get a lot of what I think you needed a lot of opinions. You needed to know what did the consumer think of this product. Did they really like it? Did they really like the packaging? And we needed a lot of different perspectives on the three. At that time, we only had three different
flavors.
Yeah.
And you said at one point people thought they were condoms, right?
Yeah, but that was exactly
the other packaging. Yeah, it was a little bit medicine-like, little too pharmacy-like.
Driving around. Jacob built he from an old Christiania bike and an old refrigerator. Built like a little brand bike, and then we drove it around Roskilde Festival. It was actually some of the first stuff you did with us, and it was just said True Gum, but it didn't say chewing gum anywhere.
I'll take some condoms.
So we had like a lot of 16-year-old guys just like running, like I've never seen 16-year-old guys run that fast, running towards the True Gum bike.
Really
like,
weird.
is this free chewing gum? What is this? Condoms or?
Are they biodegradable?
Yeah.
Give me a crate.
So you could really see some, disappointed 16-year-old guys' faces there when they were like,
It's just gum, guys.
sorry, this is like a sustainable chewing gum. They were like, oh,
damn it, I need some
side
other
that's
kind of gum.
so boring. Some people, asked us, but can we use it as a condom? But they're like,
You chew it for about 2 years, and then you can be able to use it.
But I think what we could bring back home from Roskilde Festival was actually, maybe we have some issues with the packaging here, but people really like the product. So it's not the product, it's the packaging. And then we got you already had Louise there trying to mock up some new
designs.
then I just kept hanging around. No, I also studied creative business and So for me, it was really a good chance to bump into these guys and get my hands not dirty, but get my hands full of this starting to help a real company, small but a real company, with a real product. And
feels like you guys have a really good team.
Yeah,
it's very fun to be around.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I think kind of the culture of a company.
Yeah,
I think we spoke a little bit about it in the beginning. Us like co-founders, like how do you make a culture? And it's like, should we write some stuff down? Like this is what we want to do.
Commandments.
These are like the 10. And I think different companies do different things.
Yeah.
I think what we always came back to is that the culture of our company should not be something where we say this is the culture we want to have. No. It should just flow from the people kind of guiding and steering the company. So I think the kind of the culture in the company is like very humoristic, very like down to earth, very social. Yeah. And I think that's playful. Playful. And I think that's just, some of the like in a not very deliberate way, that some of the kind of personal traits that that us who have been here for a long time just have on the day to day.
And that kind of culture also like appeals to these people that comes from in and out of the company, and someone keeps hanging around. Or when you hire people, it's sometimes it almost always fits like the culture, right? So the culture is more like something you live than something you have written down. Yeah. So the people who kind of lives that culture already, they are also like more they kind of stay around.
But it is obviously totally different than I was also as a student. I was working in the Novo Nordisk, with highest value company in the Nordic countries, and it's also fun to see how insanely different it is going to work in a company like this when you're just 20, 30 people compared to a 30,000 employee company. And it's also, I think it has its drawbacks, obviously, also from an economic perspective. We can't do so much stuff, but on a very personal perspective, it's also just so much more informal, and people can if they have cool ideas, it's super easy to bring them ahead, and we can act on them quite quickly. And I think that's one of the great things about being a small company, is we're super agile, and we can do all these small, fun, quirky things. If we want to try something different, we'll do it, we'll try it out, and we'll see what the effect is. And it doesn't have to go through like
adapt quite quickly.
5 stage gate meetings with 7 different directors and SVPs and EVPs and whatever. It's just that's fun, let's do it tomorrow.
We don't have to run everything through.
But do you ever sit there and think like, wow, fuck, I've got a company with 20 employees? Like, to me that sounds crazy, because we're hiring our first intern coming up, so we're going to be 3 people, and that's a big deal. I can only imagine having 20 people. You must just stand there some days and like
I remember actually, because in the beginning we were like Jacob and Morten and Sabrina and I who kind of founded TrueGum, and then quite quickly we got like a few people around the team, like Jacob, which were like pretty quickly into the team, but we were still producing everything ourselves, and we're like, wow, demand is growing. We can't, actually it's not, best use of our time if me and Sabrina and Jacob and Morten are standing there, cutting gum by hand 8 hours of the day. It's not, we won't be able to drive sales and do marketing and product develop. So we're like, fuck, okay, we gotta do a bet here, and we have to hire like 3-4 student workers like at once, because we could really feel the demand was growing. So I really vividly remember one Monday morning, like, I don't know, it's like the 1st of November 2018 or something like that. Monday morning, then I'm getting at the office at like 9 o'clock or something, at the factory as well, and then I just go into where they're producing, and there's like 4 new people there in the lab coats producing gum together with Sabrina, and I was like, whoa, who are these people? I was like really like mind blown. It's like I couldn't really get it, and I remember standing in the corner of the room like taking a picture of all these people I don't really know, and I didn't really know their names or anything, because Sabrina was just like, we hired some people, and everything was like happening in a week. So I think that was just like so strange. I think it was really, really strange.
Surreal.
And I still find it super weird when people say like that's my boss.
Yeah.
Or when someone say boss, I don't feel like I
look
feel
behind yourself.
I was like, who is that boss? I feel like zero, like -1% boss.
Yeah.
I think like not boss at all. I don't feel like a boss at any level, and I think it's so weird when people talk like about me as a boss. I don't ever feel like a boss, but it is this thing you're transitioning into, and you also have to, obviously it's a part of growing company, but I still find it very strange in some ways. It's also natural because we obviously know a lot about the companies. We can answer a lot of questions, of course, but I still find it weird sometimes.
Yeah.
That you're like, could you help me with this? It's like, yeah, sure. And it's like, wow, cool. It's not that I want to, not want to do a task, but it's just like, it's just cool that we're also a lot of people who can give different input and help each other like towards this, end goal in some way.
We actually just did a count last week.
Yeah, head
because
count,
we were gonna invite for a little party, and it was actually 39 people on the payroll.
That's crazy.
Which
That's
was
a
crazy.
lot.
A lot of
In
part-time,
like a couple
lot
of days,
part-time
a couple of
employees.
years.
And we were actually like,
I was
I was actually one doing the count, and I was like,
Are people
this
just sneaking
can't
in?
be
You're like,
right.
who's this guy?
Yeah.
And I was like, Peter, give me a guess. How many people are actually?
Yeah.
You know, like
25?
25? Okay, more?
Yeah.
No.
But it's
39,
because
man.
it's because of this production factory, as
Yeah.
you guys have seen.
I'm sure
We
that
have
adds up.
every hour almost from 6 in the morning to I think right now it's like at 2, 3 in the night.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a minimum of 3 people at work. And you can only work with the production for maybe 6-7 hours at a time.
Yeah.
You can never work like 16 hours. So we have to have almost like 2-3 shifts of people. So during a day you'll have at least 10-12 different people only in the factory. So obviously then when you have part-time workers, then you have to have some pool of employees to help us out with that.
It's something that we've been talking a lot about lately, is this kind of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Do you hire your first employee because you know that you will need it,
and you don't
or
really have the money to do it, right?
you have the money, but then how do you get that money because you need the third person to make that money? So it sounded like you ended up hiring them because you knew that the demand was there.
Yeah, we ended up, and I think we talked to a lot of different people, and I don't think any of us claim to be like startup gurus who have the answer, because I think a lot of it is learning by doing and following your own path, and then obviously being quickly about learning, and then if it didn't work, do something differently. But I think at least one thing we heard a lot of times was like, you have to hire sooner than later.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're gonna either be like overly consumed yourself, or you're just not really, maybe you could grow faster if you hire someone.
Like
so
you
I
said,
think,
it's taking a bet a little bit.
yeah, it is taking a bet, and also I think again, nothing is I think that can be good and bad, but nothing is fixed. You can also hire someone and then take the chance, and sometimes it will work and then sometimes it won't, but you can also have the money and then hire someone and then it's not the best match. So then you had the right person and you had the money, but it wasn't the best employee, or the match wasn't great, and then you spent 3 months on not finding the right person. So you also need, especially in the beginning, I think the first hires are so crucial that you get some people who are really with you guys, right? And who are like Jacob, who worked many months without getting any salary at all, but taking and kudos for that, really taking a bet. And to find some people who really
says a lot that if someone's willing to do that, they really believe in what you're doing.
It really says a lot, and I don't think there are so many people out there who will actually do that. So if you find any of those people, then you really know they are made out of a special material.
We found you, Dario.
We just hired
You're
a
out
guy.
there. We found you, mate. No, but that's I think that's really star quality.
So from your perspective then, what made you want to work for no money?
I'm
What's
glad
that
you
inner
asked that. I'm
drive?
glad
So
you asked that.
obviously follow up.
Well, I met the guys, and it was actually more like when I was
besides
entering
my
the
striking
company-
personality.
Peter's humor.
Yeah.
No, but actually you fall in love with the team then more than the product. Of course, the product has this. It's nice that it's environmental and green, and of course it's a great idea. So who wouldn't fall in love with the idea? But as you say, like, what make you work for them for free? Well, I was straight out of school and I needed to try something and just get my hands in the dough.
Yeah.
And
the gum.
In the gum actually, and I felt I had the chance to do that. I really like this entrepreneurship thing, and I thought like, well, I could be on this team and learn from them, see how they are.
Yeah.
Like and what I have learned also is like you they don't know everything themselves. Like Peter said, like it's really trying and trial and error sometimes, and you take a bet sometimes too, and then of course there's a lot of strategy and it's not that you don't base the decision on anything, but so I thought I could be with this team, and it's a great learning perspective for me, and of course like TrueGum wasn't a big company at that time. We were in an attic, sitting on boxes and didn't have like a desk, and there was nothing in there. So it was the team that I fell in love with, and this energy and this drive. And I was like, okay, if they have this drive, I believe in them in that way. And I'll if they want help, then I'll do my best.
Right.
And hopefully in a year. And then, of course I had a like, okay, I can do this for a year, tops, and then I gotta get some money. But then things were.
And a year went by.
And a year went
a
by.
few months went by.
Okay, so no, but then happily things developed in the right direction, and I could see, okay, this company becomes bigger, and we're getting more like more traction and more traction and more traction. So probably, and then I think like we were very open-minded both ways. So I was really like, Peter, how do you see this in 3 months now? I see it like this and this, and so I was not fooled in any way into anything. I committed myself, and I was like really like, I still believe in it. So
does that ever scare you if someone comes to you and says, what is it going to look like in 3 months? Like, give me some hope, because I want to stay and I want to keep doing this. And I mean, obviously you have an idea, probably a pretty solid idea of what's going to happen, but it's not guaranteed.
No.
How does that feel?
No, I still think it's still a thought that's probably with me each day. Maybe sometimes it's 60 seconds, maybe if it's like Sunday evening and I've been drinking Friday and Saturday, then it can be an hour. But the Sunday blues. But then everything is a bit moody. Often that's not too much, luckily. But we still have this feeling. I think most of us, it's like you never really feel like that you're really on solid ground when you're so vested in a company like this, because we are still like tiny David with these versus these Goliath companies.
Yes.
So I think all of us still feel that this is still a burning platform in some way. So I think we don't really have this feeling of security. Actually, I think none of us really have that, to be honest. And I think it's good and bad. It will definitely get me quicker towards the gray hairs than if we didn't, and if we had some more certainty. But I think it's also what has made us move really fast. Yeah. Because we're like, okay, we need to do this now. And we need to keep the pace up. So I would not promise anyone anything, but I still think that there is still this notion with me, and I definitely know also the others, that we have to move, because no one really feels that this is just now we can just sit back and
No. Do you think that will ever come?
I actually don't know. I don't know. It's like this double-edged sword or blade in some way, because it's really good, because it's like pushing us, and like we don't have the solid ground, so we're really moving fast. But on the other hand, it would be, of course, for your mental health, it would be nice with some bit more certainty. But I can maybe live with being a little bit crazy if it still moves this fast. Then it's okay.
It's funny because that's what our name is kind of based on.
Yeah.
Calling, you said you guys are on a burning platform, and we call us a burning boat, because we feel like we're on a boat. We've put everything on it, and like there's no going back, basically. But I think it can motivate you and almost force you to come up with solutions.
That was my follow-up question. Isn't that kind of something that actually is a strength, is to be kind of living in this limbo and being able to deal with it and become comfortable with the uncertainty?
Yeah. I think it also takes some time before but at some point you also just like, fuck, you just have to go home in the evening and not think about some of this stuff.
It's
Like if it overconsumes you,
yeah.
then that's gonna be really tough for your mental certainty. But I think it's good to have a burning platform. And if you're too, I don't know, I guess if you're too well funded, or the wallet is too thick, or if you have too many outs, if you're already planning for like a fallback, if you're like, okay, this is not gonna work, I know I can talk to this guy who can offer me a job. And if you're like continuously feeding those thoughts, then I think you'll definitely fall into the very Danish certainty trap lifestyle, where you'll probably not be making some of these bets and hiring an extra person, even though you maybe not have the funds to do it, right? So I think it's probably in many ways it's not always feeling so great in the stomach, but it's probably good when you're growing. And if you really wanna do something, if you don't just wanna like sit and be two people like in the company, but if you really wanna grow your company, for example, then
make something out of it.
Then it's good to sometimes put all the chips on red and then really go for it.
Do you have any tips for dealing with that sort of feeling in the stomach?
No, it's so.
Do you have any ways to unwind?
No, it's so stupid for me. I'm just like saying to myself, don't think about it anymore. You've been thinking about it for an hour now. It's like nothing good will come. Nothing good will come of it.
Eat some gum.
No. You just eat some gum. I know it's a really stupid advice, because we can also sit together sometimes, Morten and Jacob and I, and then we get some sort of news, and then you can get like, oh fuck, what will happen if that happens? And then you're kind of just freestyling, and then you're imagining all of these scenarios. But I actually think if there's like one thing I think we've also learned, which I think I actually try to guide me a little bit, is that there's like nothing, there's never something that's 100% good or 100% bad. So I actually think that's something we've actually learned now, which I think is actually helping us a little bit with coping with some of those like bad news or good news. Is that if you get like some bad news, it's never 100% bad, because something else will happen from it. If we don't sign this customer, that shit we spent 2 months on developing presentations and sending samples, and then they chose to do something with the competitor. But then that will just mean that in 1 month we'll have extra capacity to service someone else. Or
That's
if
100%
we
true.
won, then the opposite flip side would be like, we won this customer, but then on the backside of that would be, maybe because we said yes to that, then there would be a new customer coming in a month who would be even better, who we then could not service because we said yes to that customer. So I think this thing that no news is definitely you can't like definitely characterize one piece of news as this will just be infinitely good or infinitely bad. So I think we've quite now, maybe it's a very boring Danish conservative way of looking at it, but if we get like really good news, we're actually holding a little bit back, because we're like, this is great, but we'll see how it pans out over the next 6 months. Maybe that's also a little bit stupid, because we're not celebrating that much all the time. But if we then get bad news, then we've actually been able to cope with it a little bit better, because we're not, this is bad, but let's see what comes from it, because it could ricochet into something that's actually not so bad. So
it's kind of like with a lot of things, like I find with social media posts or something, you got to take the good the same as the bad, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You can't just ignore the bad and only take the good. So in a way, you have to ignore both almost at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Or at least, so I think.
So becoming a little bit mellow, a bit more mellow towards, I think, news and fluctuations that can, suddenly come out of the blue. Being a bit more just taking them in and not just reacting to them.
Right, which I do all the time.
Fuck no, shit. I think we've been becoming a bit more mellow around news, and I think that's healthy for that journey.
Awesome.
I really like that.
Nothing happened
about the nothing's 100% good or 100% bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we literally just today kind of exercised that. Got some seemingly, that's kind of crappy. We put some time into something that then didn't end up being something.
Yeah.
But the first thing Taylor said was, well, actually that means that we can put more effort into this other thing
so
we're excited about.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right.
It is
I'm actually kind of happy about that.
That kind of like switching your mindset a little bit. Yeah.
100%.
Awesome. Do you have anything else?
I mean, I was gonna do the quick fire questions, but I feel like honestly we've covered a lot of what I wanted to. One thing I think is an interesting question is: are there any what bad recommendations do you hear within your industry?
Like if people, bad recommendations, giving out, advice.
No, yeah, like people like within maybe selling a product that. Like whatever market you would consider yourself in, maybe expanding from just the chewing gum market to
just like food products.
Maybe
like that,
something that's like you buy not every day, but often. Is there anything that you hear all the time repeated in the industry that you would consider to be bad recommendation? Like we don't do that.
I think there's at least one big thing is that most people who are just doing a food product, food startup in any way, food, drink, whatever, I think the very common understanding in the industry and most like advisors would say, don't produce it yourself. They would definitely say get it outsourced, get like a third party who's already producing gum, who's already producing sodas, who's already producing whatever sort of raw bars or snacks or whatever, get them to produce it for you, because setting up your own production is so capital and money intensive and time consuming and service agreements when it's breaking down, and you need so many employees, so it's so consuming in so many different ways. And we heard that a lot of times. And then and now we're looking in and we have our factory where we're producing everything in-house, so we've really stirred up and cooked up a very, very big pot for ourselves. And I think at the end of the day, in many years down the line, I think when other people will start doing plastic-free gum or more sustainable gum, I think this thing that we probably shouldn't have done will probably be the thing that differentiates us from everyone else.
For sure.
They'll be coming to you then.
So we have other companies who
already.
are gum producers who are asking us to produce for them actually. And then we're like, no. What about no? So I think that's really the common understanding is like, don't do anything yourself with the product. Just do sales, just do marketing. And I would be lying if I would say that I some days, I would wish we didn't have the production. If I said anything else, that would probably be a lie. But I think it just gives us so much more, so deep understanding of chewing gum. Such a different story to tell compared to these, big, as I call them, like these faceless gum giants who no one really knows what they stand for, what they really do. I think it really gives us an edge, and we also have a huge passion for the production and put a lot of love into the product. But it would definitely not be the industry way of doing it. I think a lot of people have thought that we were quite crazy to do it, and it has also been a topic of heated discussions among the inside the team. But I think it will be, I think we'll look back and say, good thing that we didn't do what the industry normally would advise. Good thing that we did something differently.
I guess you got to think about the advice. It might apply very well to a lot of companies, but because you're trying to make something that doesn't exist yet.
And you get so much advice when you're like a young company. I think there's and that's why I normally say we are not startup gurus. We are not, if you ask us for advice, we'd be happy to give my opinion, but it's not that what I say is applicable to you everyone, because we've met so many business gurus in Denmark throughout this and they, they have their hammer and then they see a nail. And with that, I mean, they come with their experience and their learnings, and then they try to apply their learnings on our case.
Right.
And makes sense.
Sometimes it doesn't fit.
And sometimes it just doesn't fit, because when you have a hammer, you see a nail.
You see everything.
And then everything is nails, right? But maybe, ours is very different. So I think, but what you can really use is advice from someone who's been like directly through, like we have been able to use some advice from people who are producing food and snack, for example. Then we've been able, but like meeting some business guru who has been doing like online, and he's praised to be a guru in Denmark for startups, then that's not been actually very good for us. Then actually I think it's good that we've been going like saying good advice, but I don't think it's applicable for us actually.
No, exactly.
And if people want to either purchase some True Gum or hear more from you on your social medias, where can they find you?
Ooh, the first one here in Denmark, they can pick up a nice pack of True Gum in almost all of the supermarkets and health stores and convenience stores. So no mentioned, none forgot.
Nice.
And then, but that's the easy way of doing it these days. And then everyone can find us at Facebook at the True Gum and Instagram at True Gum and LinkedIn as well. But no Twitter accounts or anything. This is Denmark. Still.
Yeah, we don't have one either. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Awesome.
thanks for being on, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you so
you very
much.
much for having us.
And we will see you next week on The Burning Boat Show.
Woohoo!
Theme song.